Good morning, everybody. This is Jake Snyder, and this is 2DS from DS. Today is, well, I'm not going to say the date, because then you guys will know how slow I am at actually getting stuff published. Anyway, it's a chilly morning here in Boise, Idaho, and just heading to work. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is this transition from CLI to API, and why it's important, and why, like as I'm working on things and looking at things, that the API features and functionality are so much more important to me than they were just even like a year ago. So for those of you who don't know, I'm doing a TED talk at WLPC about how we automated our wireless workflow using Python and tools that we use like Ekahau, and integrating that into a ecosystem such as, in this case, it was Cisco traditional on-premises wireless LAN controllers and APIC EM with plug and play and those types of things to automate the deployment of a large wireless network. And it was really hard to do a lot of the things in Ekahau because there wasn't an API. There wasn't an easy way to get to that data. And therefore it was a lot of manual kind of like, how do I get to the data in the file and those types of things. And now I'm working on some stuff with Ansible. And while Ansible is a good platform for dealing with stuff that needs traditional SSH, it's there's some limitations there, and I think that they're starting to see modules pop up with like netconf and those types of things, trying to make it easier. But ultimately, the SSH and the CLI is this method for a human being sitting down at a network device and configuring it manually. And it is not a method for doing it quickly, easily, automated. Although we're trying to, right? And that's the piece that is a struggle now, is we're trying to take this thing that was built for you and me and automate it, with a layer of abstraction. Whereas, as I sit down, as I wrote this project, the easiest part of the project was really dealing with plug and play and APIC. Why? Because it has a really easy to use mature API. So as I'm sitting here working on projects and saying, how do I go to market? It's E-rate season for those of you in the U.S. that have to deal with that mess. And because it's E-rate season, E-rate, one of the consequences is that services, it's all about the race to the bottom. It's about doing things as quickly and cheaply and easily as possible. And so for us, that's not really my day job's motto. Is not, it's not the race to the bottom. We're kind of a premium consulting service company, and so it's a hard sell to sell these premium products. And a lot of the ways we try to differentiate is to innovate and streamline and optimize the rollout so that we can do it quicker and easier and cheaper than the next guy. And so I think that's a lot of my struggle with automation is today. A lot of it is still API based or still SSH based, and it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of limitations to some of that. Whereas the APIs are very featureful and they're so quick and easy to do stuff with. We're doing Ryan Adzma and I are doing a boot camp at Wireless LAN Pros this year and around Python. And I've been working on some content, and we're working with Mist on some of the Mist API stuff, and it is so much easier than trying to deal with SSH, and just you get immediate feedback that I push this command and it comes back and says yes or no. It's like status code 200. Yay, it took it. Great. Whereas the CLI, it's like, well, it took it. Did it actually do what I asked it to do? Well, or let's pull the config now and re-look at the device and see if it actually, or test it and see if it's actually doing what I asked it to. Where the API, it comes back and a lot of times the API will say, I did these things, or I did 3 of the 4 things and one of them didn't work and you need to figure out how to deal with it. So it's very easy and scalable from that perspective to really start looking at doing stuff with APIs. And I almost at the point now where if it doesn't have an API, it's like, oh man, that's a lot of work. Maybe I'll go work on something that does, just because it's easy. And I'm afraid some of the manufacturers out there, if they aren't embracing APIs in their product lines, like if you don't have APIs in your networking product today, you're behind the time already. And you know, these companies that are API first and very API driven, I think those guys, you know, if they continue to make, you know, products that are easy for us to consume, that our ability to scale as solution engineers and deployment engineers is going to go way up. And I think long term you're going to see, and this is my bet, I'm betting on this with my day job, is that long term you're going to see solution providers that can do things in automated, scalable ways start winning out over the people who are still sitting down to the CLI and pounding in config and doing those things, because we're just going to outpace them. And so that's kind of spent a lot of time at the day job right now, automating things. We're gearing up for another E-Rate season, gearing up for some other projects where we're going to leverage our automation software that we wrote last year. And believe me, it's like adding a manufacturer. So I added Meraki to our our automation portfolio, and it was about 3 days worth of work to take exactly what we'd done before and add Meraki to it. And I'm scoping, you know, adding Aruba into this, and it's, you know, for 6.x, and it's probably several weeks of work to get the SSH straightened out and get some of that stuff figured out to be able to do some of that. So, you know, from a traditional CLI perspective to API is, you know, it's days, not weeks or months, to implement some of this stuff for us and our professional services. And that's the part for us that's, you know, I'll be honest, I used to be a developer. I don't want to do that anymore. But you know, for me, it's about how do I go and be more efficient at my job? How do I deploy quicker? How do I provide higher levels of accuracy and consistency in my customer base? And I think that, you know, I'm lucky that I'm in a position where I can affect some change, and, you know, the wireless practice at work has benefited in this last year, and we're going to continue to try to roll that forward, gaining momentum and being able to go take stuff and deploy it in our customers so much more quickly than we did before. And I'm hoping we don't lose some of that expert guidance of going in and doing the things that only we can do, and really offloading those things that somebody else could do to somebody else, whether that's other people on other teams or if that's subcontractors or what, to help us get back to doing the things. The reasons we got into engineering was not to sit at a CLI and type configs in. It was to design and build solutions. And I think that right now I find that, you know, doing some of these things is going to be tough in the long term, but I think the rewards are always going to pay dividends on the effort that we put in. And so, you know, for manufacturers out there, you know, there's a couple manufacturers out there that want to spoon feed you API. Your management dashboard is not the product. Your platform is the product. And that API is how we interact with the platform. So while you can say, you know, my dashboard is my product, the API is the thing that's really going to differentiate you in the long term. And I always come back, people who want to spoon feed you an API. It's like, well, we built our product, and then we're going to decide what we give you from an API perspective. I think that's really short-sighted, because you're customizing your dashboard for your target market. And that's not to say that your products don't fit in other markets, but those other markets have different needs and different wants, and giving them the ability to go after the things that they want to do with that API are going to allow your product to scale into those markets much more quickly. And there's the expression, anything you can do, I can do better. Well, when it comes to knowing my business and what my business needs, I know it so much better than any wireless vendor could possibly tell me. So a lot of time it is, hey, just put the tools there. We'll figure out how to implement the tools for our business. And if we don't, we'll hire somebody to help us figure out, how to take what our business needs and translate that into the API calls that we want to do. And that this whole, well, we'll give you, if there's a business justification for the API, we'll build it. And it's like, wait a minute, but you built that API for your dashboard, right? Well, yeah. So don't fall into that trap, guys. If you're making web-based products and you're presenting an API, anything your teams are doing or are capable of doing should be in that API in that product, because ultimately somebody's going to find a better way to do it than you. And wouldn't you rather have them use your platform? I would, if I was making APs in gear. So anyway, so I'm pulling into work here. So thanks for watching. This is Jake Snyder at 2dsfromds.com, and leave some feedback below if there's stuff you want to see, or you have an opinion about things I've said and how I'm wrong. Go ahead and leave them below. Thanks. Have a great day.